Through the centuries, only a part of Jesus' true message has reached us. But what if he had taught something much deeper, capable of completely transforming human consciousness? In this mystical journey, you will discover the secret teachings that reveal the path to divine consciousness and the true essence of the kingdom of God, which lies within you. You always knew there was something more. Even in the darkest nights, when silence was your only companion, you felt that indefinable presence, that calling echoing in the depths of your soul, like a dormant seed waiting for the right moment to germinate. The truth was there, stored in your heart, awaiting the precise moment to awaken. Today, as you contemplate the horizon and observe the rising sun painting the sky with golden hues, you begin to understand that your spiritual quest has always been deeper than the external religious practices you've known. Jesus' words echo in your mind with renewed clarity. The kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21. It's not a distant promise, not a physical place to be reached. It's a living reality pulsing within you. Tears begin to roll silently down your face as you realize that for so long you sought outside what was always within. As the mystic Thomas Merton said, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." This profound truth begins to resonate in every cell of your being, awakening an understanding that transcends intellect. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, feeling the air filling your lungs. With each breath, a new consciousness expands within you. Jesus' teachings begin to take on a completely new meaning. They're not just ancient words recorded in a sacred book, but keys to awakening the divine consciousness that has always inhabited your being. The gentle wind caresses your face, and you allow yourself to dive deeper into this experience. The key words of contemporary mystic Richard Rohr resound in your mind. The spiritual center of our existence is not an ivory tower that isolates us from reality, but the point or spark that unites all dimensions of our life. This is exactly what you're experiencing now, a sacred union between the human and divine. Memories of your spiritual journey until now begin to surface. You remember the moments of questioning, the nights of doubt, the mornings of tireless seeking. Each experience you now realize was a necessary step in this journey of awakening. As Jesus said to Nicodemus, "The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear its sound, but you do not know where it comes from or where it goes. So it is with everyone who is born of the Spirit." John 3:8. The morning breeze continues its gentle dance, and you feel a loving presence enveloping you. It's as if Christ himself were there, not as a distant historical figure, but as a living, pulsating reality, present in every atom of your existence. The words of the mystic John of the Cross come alive in your heart. The soul that walks in love neither tires nor grows tired. You begin to understand that the mystical Christianity that Jesus taught goes far beyond the superficial interpretations that have predominated over the centuries. It's a path of profound transformation, an invitation to awaken the Christ consciousness that dwells in every human being. As the Apostle Paul said, "It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." Galatians 2:20. The sun continues its ascent in the sky, and with it, your consciousness expands even further. You realize that you are at the beginning of an extraordinary journey, not a journey to an external destination, but a pilgrimage to the deepest center of your being. The mystical teachings of Jesus begin to reveal themselves as a map for this inner journey. Truth begins to unfold in your heart like a flower, opening to the first ray of sunlight. You understand that Christ is not just a historical figure to be worshipped from afar, but a living presence, a divine consciousness that can be awakened in every human heart. As the American mystic Joel Goldsmith said, "Christ is not a person who lived 2,000 years ago, but a living presence within every human being." Jesus' words, "I and the Father are one," John 10:30, take on a completely new meaning. It wasn't just a personal declaration from Jesus, but a universal truth about the divine nature that dwells in every human being. You feel this unity now, not as a theological concept, but as an experiential reality. The present moment expands into an eternity of consciousness. The veil separating the human from the divine begins to dissolve, and you glimpse the truth that Jesus tried to share with his closest disciples. As contemporary mystic Sarah Mitchell said, the spiritual journey is not a journey of progress, but of dissolution, the dissolution of everything that separates us from our true nature. While the sun reaches its zenith, you know this is just the beginning. The awakening of Christ consciousness is an ongoing process, a journey that unfolds moment by moment. The mystical teachings of Jesus will be your guide on this path of inner transformation, illuminating each step with the light of eternal truth. The evening light casts long shadows on the ground as you meditate on Jesus' words. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. Matthew 6:22. For years you read this passage without truly understanding its profound meaning. Now, sitting in silence, a new understanding begins to awaken in your being. You close your physical eyes and gently direct your attention to the point between your eyebrows, the location that ancient traditions call the third eye. A gentle pressure begins to form in this region, as if something were awakening from a long sleep. The words of contemporary Christian mystic Michael Thompson echo in your mind. Contemplation is a third eye of seeing, a third type of consciousness that complements your sensory mind and your rational mind. A sensation of warmth begins to spread from this point, radiating throughout your face. You remember the words of the Apostle Paul, "For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face." 1 Corinthians 13:12. This passage gains new meaning as you experience the awakening of this higher perception. The air around you seems to become denser, more alive. It's as if every particle of space were charged with a luminous energy that you had never noticed before. The words of John of the Cross resonate in your heart. The soul that walks in light and truth finds its beloved in all things. You begin to understand that the single eye Jesus spoke of is not a physical organ, but a spiritual faculty that allows you to perceive the divine reality present in all creation. Memories of sacred moments in your life begin to surface. Those fleeting instances when you glimpsed something beyond the veil of ordinary reality. Now you understand that these were moments when your spiritual eye was partially awake. As Thomas Merton said, the contemplative life is not an intensification of the conscious self, but its disappearance in God. A deep peace begins to settle in your being as you allow this new form of perception to develop naturally. There is no need to force or control, just be present and allow the eye of single vision to awaken by itself. Jesus' words to his disciples gain crystal clarity. "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Matthew 5:8. Twilight advances, and the first stars begin to dot the sky. You notice that your vision is different, not just your physical eyes, but your perception as a whole. Colors seem more vibrant, sounds clearer, and there is a luminous quality to everything you observe. As American mystic Elizabeth Bradford said, "Everything created has a radiance, an inner spiritual glow. A gentle breeze touches your face, and with it comes a deeper understanding of Jesus' words about the single eye. This is not just a poetic metaphor, but a practical instruction for awakening a higher faculty of spiritual perception." Contemporary mystic Rachel Andrews explains, "The eye of the heart is the organ of spiritual perception through which we can see reality in its true nature. You breathe deeply, feeling the vital energy flowing through your body. With each breath, the sensation in the center of your forehead intensifies. It's not uncomfortable. It's as if a seal were being gently removed, allowing a new form of consciousness to emerge. The words from the Gospel of Thomas, a Gnostic text, echo in your mind. "When you make the two one, and make the inside like the outside, then you will enter the kingdom." Night deepens, but you feel more awake than ever. It's as if a veil were being lifted, revealing a deeper reality that has always been present, but that you couldn't perceive before. Thomas Merton said, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." You begin to understand that this single eye is the meeting point between the human and divine. The stars above seem to pulse with a life of their own, and you realize that you're seeing not just their physical light, but also their spiritual essence. Each star is like a window to infinity, a reminder of the vastness of the spiritual cosmos that Jesus tried to reveal. As American mystic David Anderson said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." Night advances, but you remain in a state of conscious vigilance. The single eye that Jesus mentioned is not just a portal for extraordinary visions. It's a completely new way of being in the world, of perceiving reality in its sacred totality. You understand that this is just the beginning of a deeper journey of expanded perception and consciousness. The dawn unfolds in silence as you contemplate Jesus' words that now resonate with an entirely new meaning. "I and the Father are one." John 10:30. The air is still as if the universe itself were in a state of deep contemplation. In your heart you feel the awakening of a truth that transcends all words. Sitting in meditation, you realize that this statement by Jesus was not a claim of divine exclusivity, but a universal invitation to recognize our true nature. As American mystic William Parker said, "If Christ were born 1,000 times in Bethlehem, but not in your soul, you would still be lost in eternity." A shiver runs down your spine as you comprehend the depth of this truth. The first lights of dawn begin to tinge the horizon, and with them comes a deeper understanding. Union with the She. Divine is not something to be achieved. It's something to be recognized, for it has always been present. Contemporary mystic Robert Johnson expressed this beautifully. The divine is already present. Our practice is not to find God, but to remove the obstacles that prevent us from recognizing His presence. Silent tears begin to roll down your face as you feel the truth of these words in every fiber of your being. These are not tears of sadness, but of deep recognition. As Paul said, "In Him we live and move and have our being," Acts 17:28. The separation you felt for so long begins to dissolve like mist under the morning sun. A sensation of expansion begins to take over your being. It's as if the walls that defined the limits of your identity were gently dissolving. The words of Christian mystic Mary Stevens echo in your consciousness. Between God and the soul there is no distance. You begin to experience the truth of this statement not as a concept, but as a lived reality. The sun continues its ascent, and with it your consciousness expands even further. The separation between observer and observed begins to dissolve. As Thomas Merton said, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." You begin to understand that the unity Jesus spoke of is not a distant goal, but our true nature waiting to be recognized. A gentle breeze touches your face, and you realize that there's no real separation between you and the air you breathe, between you and the ground beneath your feet, between you and the sky above. The words of Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas resonate with new clarity. The kingdom is within you and it is outside you. The division between interior and exterior begins to dissolve into an experience of total unity. Memories of moments in your life when you experienced glimpses of this unity begin to surface. Moments of ecstasy in nature, instances of deep connection with other beings, experiences of transcendence in prayer. As contemporary American mystic James Morton said, "Mysticism is experiencing our union with God here and now. It's not about believing in ideas about God. The sun is now high in the sky, but you barely notice its passage. Time seems to have a different quality when immersed in the experience of divine unity." The words of St. Augustine gain profound meaning. "Late have I loved you, O beauty ever ancient, ever new. You were within me, but I was outside seeking you." A deep peace settles in your being as you allow this truth to deepen. Unity with the divine is not something that needs to be created or achieved. It's our fundamental reality that only needs to be recognized and lived. As contemporary mystic Anna Williams said, "The spiritual journey is not a journey of progress, but of dissolution. The dissolution of everything that separates us from our true nature." The day advances, but you remain in a state of expanded consciousness. Jesus' words, "I and the Father are one," are no longer just a biblical quote. They're a precise description of the reality you're experiencing now. As American mystic John Edwards said, "The consciousness of our unity with God is the secret of all harmony in life. The midday light bathes everything in crystalline clarity, and you see with a sharpness never before experienced. There is no real separation between you and the divine source of existence. As Jesus said, "In that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me and I in you." John 14:20. This is not a promise for a distant future, but a present reality that can be recognized here and now. The sun begins to set as you reflect on the words Jesus directed to Nicodemus. "Truly, truly I say to you, unless one is born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." John 3:3. The wind blows softly through the trees, and you remember how Jesus continued. "The wind blows where it wishes, and you hear its sound, but you do not know where it comes from or where it goes. So it is with everyone who is born of the Spirit." John 3:8. A subtle energy begins to move at the base of your spine, like a serpent awakening from a long sleep. You recognize this sensation as the beginning of the process that ancient traditions call the awakening of Kundalini, the divine energy that resides in every human being. The words of contemporary Christian mystic Sarah Anderson echo in your mind. Spiritual rebirth is a total transformation of being, a radical change in consciousness. The twilight paints the sky in shades of purple and gold as this energy continues, its gentle ascent up your spine. Each vertebra seems to awaken to a new life, a new consciousness. As Paul said, "If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come." 2 Corinthians 5:17. You begin to understand that this rebirth is not a metaphor, but a tangible reality you're experiencing now. The energy continues its upward journey, and with it, ancient layers of conditioning begin to dissolve. Fears, attachments, limiting patterns, everything begins to be transformed by the purifying fire of the Spirit. The words of Teresa of Avila gain new meaning. The Lord does not look so much at the magnitude of anything we do as at the love with which we do it. When the energy reaches your heart, an explosion of unconditional love floods your being. Tears of gratitude flow freely as you experience a love that transcends all human understanding. As American mystic Michael Thompson said, "Where there is no love, put love and you will find love." This love is not a common emotion. It is the very nature of the divine manifesting through you. The night deepens, but an inner light continues to shine ever more intensely. The sacred energy reaches your throat, and you feel as if you were losing your old voice to gain a new one, the voice of divine truth. The words of contemporary mystic Rebecca Palmer resonate. What can we say about love that isn't a song? When the energy reaches the point between your eyebrows, the third eye you had already begun to awaken, a completely new vision of reality reveals itself. It's as if a veil had been removed, and you can see the true nature of all things. As William Blake said, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite." Finally, the energy reaches the top of your head, and you experience an explosion of light and consciousness. It's as if 1,000 suns had been born simultaneously within you. Jesus' words take on an entirely new meaning. "You are the light of the world," Matthew 5:14. You understand that this wasn't a metaphor, but a literal description of our true nature. In the midst of this transcendent experience, you begin to understand the true meaning of spiritual rebirth. It's not just a change of beliefs or external behaviors. It's a fundamental transformation of consciousness itself. As contemporary American mystic Daniel Roberts said, "Spiritual awakening is the most difficult of births because it is the birth of a totally new reality. Night advances, but you remain in a state of expanded consciousness. Each breath seems to bring new life, new awareness. As Emily Bradford said, we are circular beings. Our soul is a breath of God that carries the body as the wind carries a feather. You feel this truth in every cell of your being. The process of rebirth continues to unfold in ever deeper layers. You begin to understand why Jesus insisted so much on the need to be born again. It wasn't an external ritual he was describing, but a complete inner transformation that allows us to see and experience divine reality. As Thomas Merton said, "The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me." The stars shine intensely in the night sky, and you feel in complete harmony with the cosmos. This rebirth in the spirit is a return to our true nature, an awakening to who we really are. As American mystic Peter Thompson said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." Dawn breaks as you meditate on Jesus' words, "Enter by the narrow gate. For the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." Matthew 7:13-14. The first ray of sun comes through the window, and with it comes a deeper understanding of these enigmatic words. You begin to understand that the narrow path is not a physical route, nor a set of rigid moral rules, but a state of consciousness that requires constant vigilance and absolute dedication. As Thomas Merton said, the spiritual path is not so much a matter of seeking God, but of removing one by one the barriers we build between ourselves and God. A gentle breeze touches your face, reminding you of the subtlety of this path. It's easy to get lost in the distractions of the world, in daily worries, in the desires and attachments that constantly pull our attention outward. Contemporary American mystic Richard Foster once observed, "The narrow path is the path of the continuous present, where each moment is a door to the divine." Sitting in silence, you observe the thoughts that arise in your mind. Some are seductive, promising pleasure or fulfillment. Others are frightening, threatening with fear and loss. You begin to understand that the narrow path is the ability to remain centered amid all these distractions. As American mystic John Bailey said, "To reach what you do not know, you must go by way of unknowing." Spiritual discipline begins to take on new meaning. It's not a form of self-punishment or denial, but a means of tuning your consciousness to perceive more subtle realities. The words of contemporary mystic Grace Mitchell resonate. "The Lord looks not so much at the greatness of our works as at the love with which they are done." You begin to understand that true discipline is an expression of love. The sun continues its ascent, and with it grows your understanding of what it means to walk through the narrow gate. Each moment offers a choice. Follow the old patterns of the ego or remain open to the divine presence. As contemporary American mystic Amanda Stevens said, "The narrow gate is the path of continuous surrender, moment by moment." Memories of moments of choice in your life begin to surface. Those crucial instances when you had to choose between the easy path and the true path. Now you realize that each of these choices was an invitation to enter more deeply into the narrow, as Robert Anderson said, "When Christ calls a person, he invites them to come and die to their old self." Noon approaches, and the heat of the sun reminds you of the purifying fire of spiritual transformation. The narrow path is not just a journey of discovery, but also a process of refinement. As Thomas Merton said, "What must be burned must be burned, what must be broken must be broken, what must be torn out must be torn out." A deep peace begins to settle in your being as you accept the challenging nature of the path. There are no shortcuts on the spiritual journey, no way to avoid the necessary inner work. As contemporary mystic Sarah Thompson said, "The narrow path is the path of continuous loss, the loss of everything we think we are." The sun begins its descent on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. You reflect on how the narrow path requires a special kind of courage, not the courage to fight, but the courage to surrender. As William Foster said, "Silence is God speaking to us, and meditation is our way of listening." As night approaches, you understand that the narrow path is not just an individual journey, but a universal calling. Jesus wasn't describing an exclusive path for a chosen few, but the essential nature of the spiritual journey for all who wish to awaken. As contemporary American mystic Mark Adams said, "We are spiritual beings passing through a human experience." The first stars begin to appear in the twilight sky, and you feel a deep gratitude for the path, even with all its challenges. Each obstacle, each moment of doubt, each inner battle, everything serves the purpose of awakening. As Emily Richardson said, "He didn't say you won't be troubled, you won't be disturbed, but he said you won't be overcome." The night deepens, but an inner light continues to shine. The narrow path is, paradoxically, the path of greatest freedom. As Paul said, Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. 2 Corinthians 3:17. It is through conscious discipline and loving surrender that we find our true nature. The 2. Garden awakens with the first rays of sun as you contemplate Jesus' words, "I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me you can do nothing." John 15:5. An ancient grapevine grows near you, its branches extending in a natural dance of growth and connection. In the soft morning light, you begin to see this metaphor with new eyes. The sap flows silently through the vine, nourishing each branch, each leaf, each forming fruit. You close your eyes and feel a similar energy flowing through your own being, the divine life force that sustains all existence. As American mystic Robert Thompson said, "Divine consciousness is like the sap in the tree, continuously flowing and keeping each part alive and productive." A butterfly lands on one of the vine's branches, its wings catching the rising sun's light. You observe how each movement in nature is an expression of this fundamental divine connection. The words of Thomas Merton resonate in your heart. "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one seeing, one knowing, one love." The wind blows softly through the branches, and you observe how they move in perfect harmony without resistance. This is the essence of the vine teaching. There is no real separation between the divine and its manifestations. As contemporary mystic Sarah Williams said, "The soul is like a perfectly transparent crystal with the sun shining through it." You begin to understand that your true nature is that perfect transparency to the divine. Sitting in contemplation, you notice how each branch receives exactly what it needs from the vine. There is no scarcity, no competition, just a natural flow of life and nourishment. Contemporary American mystic Michael Foster expressed this beautifully. The divine is not somewhere out there, but is the most intimate reality, the most present reality in our existence. The sun rises higher in the sky, and you observe the shadows of the branches dancing on the ground. Each movement is an expression of the fundamental unity between the vine and its branches. As John Bailey said, "The soul that walks in love neither tires nor grows tired." This is the nature of true connection with the divine, an effortless flow of love and life. A bee hums among the vine's flowers, participating in the dance of life. You begin to see how each creature, each being, is a unique branch of this universal divine vine. The words of American mystic David Anderson gain new depth. "We are one with the universe, not because we are so distantly connected, but because we are so intimately united." Noon approaches, and the sun's heat makes the vine's leaves shine with an inner light. You understand that the vine metaphor is not just about spiritual connection, it's about allowing divine life to flow through you without obstacles. As contemporary mystic Rachel Palmer said, "The spiritual life is more about subtraction than addition. It's about removing the obstacles to the natural flow of grace." An ant makes its determined way along one of the branches, and you smile as you realize how even the smallest creatures are perfect expressions of this divine unity. The words of Emily White echo in your mind. "To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour." The sun begins its downward journey, and you reflect on how each branch, though unique, is a perfect expression of the vine. There is no need for comparison or competition. Each has its own path of expressing divine life. As Thomas Merton said, "For me to be a saint means to be myself." Therefore, the problem of sanctity and salvation is in fact the problem of finding out who I am and of discovering my true self. The shadows lengthen, and you observe how some branches of the vine grow toward the sun, while others extend horizontally or dive toward the ground. Each direction is perfect, each expression is sacred. As American mystic Catherine Bradford said, "Each creature is a bright reflection of the divine." Twilight approaches, bringing with it a deep peace. You understand that remaining connected to the vine is not a matter of effort or discipline, but of recognition and surrender. As contemporary mystic Jennifer Andrews said, The secret is not trying to be more spiritual. The secret is becoming more real, more transparent to the divine life that already flows through us. Night arrives, and the stars begin to dot the sky above the vine. You remain seated in silence, feeling the pulse of divine life flowing through your being. As American mystic Robert Wilson said, "Within this vessel of earth there are oceans and continents and myriad stars. The seer and the seen are one." The vine metaphor reveals itself as a living, pulsating, eternally present truth. The night is deep and silent as you reflect on Jesus' words. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. Matthew 6:6. The silence is not just absence of sound, but a living, pulsating presence that seems to envelop you like a sacred mantle. You remember how Jesus often withdrew to solitary places to pray, seeking silence as a sacred refuge. As Thomas Merton said, "Silence is God's first language." In the quietness of night, you begin to understand the profound meaning of this truth. A solitary candle illuminates the environment with its flickering light, creating dancing shadows. On the walls, in your heart, you feel a calling to dive deeper into silence. The words of contemporary American mystic William Foster echo in your mind. "Silence is God's language. Everything else is a poor translation." The night sounds, the distant song of a cricket, the soft whisper of wind, seem to only enhance the sacred quality of silence. You begin to realize that silence is not something that needs to be created, but a reality always present that is usually covered by the noise of our thoughts and concerns. As Thomas Merton said, "Nothing in creation resembles God as much as silence." As your mind quiets, deeper layers of silence begin to reveal themselves. It's as if you were descending a spiral staircase, each step leading to a deeper level of quietude. The words of contemporary mystic James Mitchell gain new meaning. The Father spoke one word, which was his Son, and this word he always speaks in eternal silence, and in silence must it be heard by the soul. The candle flame continues its silent dance, and you notice how silence has different qualities, different depths. As contemporary American mystic Sarah Thompson said, "Silence is not the absence of something, but the presence of everything." In the quietness of night, you begin to experience this total presence. Memories of moments of deep silence in your life begin to surface, those sacred instances when you glimpsed something beyond words, beyond thoughts. Now you understand that these moments were invitations to a deeper dimension of reality. As American mystic David Anderson said, "In silence we find new energy and true unity. The dawn advances, and with it, your inner silence deepens even further." You begin to understand why Jesus emphasized so much the importance of secret prayer, of intimate encounter with the divine in the silence of the heart. As American mystic Mary Stevens said, "The soul grows more in silence and expectation than in possession." A deep peace begins to settle in your being as you allow silence to completely permeate you. There is no need to seek, to strive, just to be present in the sacred quietude. As contemporary mystic John Parker said, "Silence is not something we do, it's something we are." The first lights of dawn begin to insinuate themselves on the horizon, but you remain immersed in inner silence. The words of American poet Emily White echo softly in your consciousness. "Silence is God's language, everything else is a poor translation." You begin to understand that silence is the true ground from which all authentic spiritual experience springs. The day slowly dawns, and with it comes a deeper understanding of silence's role in the spiritual journey. It's not just a means to an end, but the very essence of mystical experience. As Thomas Merton said, "In silence we discover a new way of being in God's presence. The first rays of sun come through the window, but the inner silence remains intact." You understand that this is the true secret room Jesus spoke of, not a physical place, but a state of consciousness where words cease and divine presence is revealed. As contemporary mystic Anna Bradford said, "In silence, the soul finds its way in a light clearer than the sun." The morning sun warms your face as you meditate on Jesus' words. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. John 13:34. A gentle breeze touches your skin, and you begin to understand that this wasn't just a moral command, but an invitation to experience the very nature of the divine. Sitting in contemplation, you feel a wave of love arising from the depths of your being. It's not the common love we know. It's something vaster, deeper, more inclusive. As Paul said, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. 1 Corinthians 13:4-5. A butterfly lands nearby, its wings shining in the sun. You feel your heart expand to include this small creature in its embrace of love. The words of American mystic Francis Miller echo in your mind. Start by doing what's necessary, then what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. You understand that love is the force that makes the impossible possible. The wind blows through the trees, and you observe how each leaf dances its own rhythm, yet in perfect harmony with the whole. This is the kind of love Jesus taught, a love that celebrates individuality while recognizing the fundamental unity of all creation. As Thomas Merton said, love is our true identity. We do not find our true self anywhere except in love. Memories of moments when you experienced glimpses of this unconditional love begin to surface. Now you realize that each of these moments was an invitation to expand your consciousness, to transcend the limits of ego and dive into the ocean of divine love. As contemporary mystic Rebecca Stevens said, "What matters is not thinking much, but loving much. The sun reaches its zenith, and with it your understanding of love deepens. This is not a love that can be cultivated through effort. It's our true nature waiting to be recognized. As Thomas Merton said, the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one vision, one knowledge, one love. A child laughs in the distance and your heart expands even more. You begin to feel how love is the very substance of the universe, the force that unites all things. The words of contemporary American mystic Michael Thompson resonate. Love is not an emotion, but the very creative energy of the universe. Noon brings with it crystalline clarity. You understand that the love Jesus spoke of is not something to be achieved, but something to be allowed. As John Bailey said, "Where there is no love, put love, and you will find love." It's a process of removing the barriers we build against love, allowing it to flow naturally. An ant carries a leaf many times larger than its own size, and you feel love and admiration for its perseverance. This is the kind of love Jesus demonstrated, a love that makes no distinctions, that sees divinity in all forms of life. As American mystic Peter Anderson said, "Love is the most universal, the most tremendous, and the most mysterious of cosmic energies." As the afternoon advances, you notice how love transforms your perception of reality. It's not just a feeling, it's a completely new way of seeing and experiencing the world. As Emily White said, "We can forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when people are afraid of the light." The sun begins its descent on the horizon, painting the sky with extraordinary colors. You understand that love is like this light. It illuminates everything it touches, revealing the inherent beauty in all things. As contemporary mystic Sarah Bradford said, "Love is the force that allows us to see with the eyes of the heart. The shadows lengthen, but the love in your heart continues to shine with increasing intensity." You begin to understand why Jesus insisted so much on love, not as a virtue to be practiced, but as the very nature of reality to be recognized and lived. As contemporary American mystic Robert Foster said, "Divine love is the driving force of all creation." Night approaches, bringing with it a deep peace. The love you experience now transcends all dualities. There is no longer lover and beloved, only love itself, flowing freely, embracing everything in its path. As American poet David Wilson said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Twilight paints the sky in shades of purple as you reflect on Jesus' words. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow. Matthew 16:24. In the dying light of day, you begin to understand the deeper meaning of these words, not as a call to suffering, but as an invitation to liberation through transcendence of the ego. A dry leaf dances in the wind before gently landing on the ground. You observe how it naturally lets go of the branch, without resistance, without attachment. The words of contemporary American mystic Rachel Andrews resound in your mind. The death of the ego is not really a death, but a blossoming of consciousness. Like the leaf, the ego must fall for something new to be born. The wind blows stronger now, as if wanting to emphasize the message. You begin to realize that what Jesus called denying oneself was not a form of self-punishment, but an invitation to transcend the limited identity of the ego. As Thomas Merton said, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me, and in that seeing the ego must die." The first stars begin to appear in the night sky. You feel a deep peace settling in your being as you understand that the death of the ego is not a single event, but an ongoing process of surrender. As contemporary mystic Jennifer Mitchell said, "To reach what you do not know, you must go by way of unknowing." Memories of moments in your life when the ego was temporarily transcended begin to surface. Moments of ecstasy in nature, experiences of unconditional love, instances of deep union with the divine. As American mystic William Foster said, "The true self is not the ego, but that which is beyond all words and thoughts." Night deepens, and with it, your understanding expands. You realize that the ego is like an actor who has forgotten they are only playing a role. As contemporary mystic James Thompson said, "Spiritual awakening is the moment when the actor remembers they are only acting." An owl hoots in the distance, its call echoing in the darkness. You begin to see how the ego creates a false sense of separation, from the divine, from others, from life itself. The words of American mystic Grace Mitchell gain new meaning. Humility is walking in truth. This truth is the realization of our fundamental unity with the divine. The moon rises on the horizon, bathing the landscape with its silvery light. You understand that just as the moon has no light of its own, but reflects the sun's light, the ego has no independent existence. It's merely a reflection of divine consciousness. As contemporary mystic David Anderson said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." The silence of night deepens, and with it, you feel the ego beginning to dissolve naturally. There is no struggle, no effort, just a gentle recognition of the truth of your being. As contemporary American mystic Sarah Stevens said, "The ego must die not by murder, but by surrender." A night breeze brings with it the scent of jasmine, and you notice how each sensation arises in consciousness without need for a self to experience it. As American mystic Robert Wilson said, "The ego is like a person's shadow. It seems real but has no substance of its own." The moon continues its journey across the night sky, and you understand that the death of the ego is not a loss, but an infinite gain. As Paul said, "It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me." Galatians 2:20. This is true resurrection, awakening to our divine identity. The stars shine with increasing intensity, and you feel an infinite expansion in your being. The ego, with its worries and fears, seems so small now compared to the vastness of consciousness that you are. As Emily White said, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite." Dawn approaches, bringing with it crystalline clarity. You understand that Jesus' call to take up your cross was not an invitation to suffering, but an invitation to die to the false and be born to the true. As Thomas Merton said, "The kingdom of God is for those who are completely dead to themselves." The first birds begin their morning song, and you feel an indescribable joy arising from the depths of your being. This is the joy that comes from liberation from the ego, the happiness Jesus promised, Not a happiness based on external circumstances, but the natural bliss of our true nature. The city awakens around you while you contemplate Jesus' words, "You are the light of the world," Matthew 5:14. The rising sun illuminates the buildings, and you observe the flow of people beginning their day. Now, with your expanded consciousness, you begin to see how each person carries within them that same divine light, even if they haven't recognized it yet. A woman hurries past carrying a sleepy child. In her tired face, you see the light of divine love shining through her maternal care. As American mystic Mary Thompson said, "We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love." You understand that this is how Christ consciousness manifests in the world, through simple acts of love and presence. The movement in the street increases, and you observe how each person is a unique expression of the divine. A street vendor carefully organizes his stand, a bus driver greets his passengers with a genuine smile, a street sweeper cleans with silent dignity. As Thomas Merton said, "For me to be a saint means to be myself." Therefore, the problem of sanctity and salvation is, in fact, the problem of finding out who I am and discovering my true self. An elderly lady slightly stumbles, and you instinctively move to help her. In this simple gesture, you feel how Christ consciousness flows naturally, effortlessly, without thinking. As American mystic Francis Miller said, "Start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible." The sun is higher now, and you observe how its light touches everyone equally, rich and poor, young and old, those who laugh and those who cry. This is the nature of Christ consciousness. It makes no distinctions, doesn't judge, only loves and serves. As Mark Anderson said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." A group of children runs past, their laughter echoing in the street. You feel how each sound, each movement is an expression of the cosmic dance of the divine. As American mystic Peter Thompson said, "We are spiritual beings having a human experience." This truth manifests in every moment, in every encounter. Noon approaches and you enter a small coffee shop. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, and you observe how even the most mundane activities can be expressions of the sacred when performed with full awareness. As contemporary mystic Sarah Bradford said, "Peace is in every step." A young barista prepares your coffee with focused attention, and you see how each of her movements is a sacred dance. As Thomas Merton said, "If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it would be enough." You give thanks not just for the coffee, but for the opportunity to witness the divine manifesting through this simple interaction. The afternoon advances and you walk through a city park. A homeless person sleeps on a bench, and you feel your heart expand with compassion. Jesus' words echo, "Truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me." Matthew 25:40. You understand that Christ consciousness cannot ignore the world's suffering. A group of people peacefully protests for social justice on a corner. You recognize how Christ consciousness also manifests through the pursuit of justice and social transformation. As American mystic Robert Andrews said, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor." The sun begins its descent, and you observe workers returning home. Each face tells a story, each person carries their own burdens and hopes. Christ consciousness sees beyond external appearances, recognizing the divine light that shines through each being. As Emily White said, "To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower." Night approaches, and the city lights begin to shine. You understand that Christ consciousness is not something reserved for special moments of meditation or prayer. It's a way of being in the world, a way of seeing and interacting with all creation. As contemporary American mystic Jennifer Mitchell said, "God also walks among the pots and pans." The stars begin to appear in the urban sky, reminding you of the vastness of the cosmos and the interconnection of all things. Christ consciousness is both transcendent and immanent. It's beyond everything and yet present in every moment, every encounter, every breath. As American poet David Wilson said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. The dawn of a new day draws on the horizon as you sit in deep contemplation. All the mystical teachings of Jesus that you've explored throughout this journey begin to merge into a single crystalline understanding. As Jesus himself said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." John 8:32. Now you understand that this truth is not an intellectual concept, but a living, pulsating realization. The rising sun bathes everything in golden light, and you perceive how each aspect of the mystical teachings interweaves perfectly with the others. The inner kingdom, the single eye, union with the Father, rebirth in the Spirit, the narrow path, the vine and branches, all are different aspects of the same fundamental reality. As Thomas Merton said, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me." A gentle breeze touches your face, and you feel how the awakening of Christ consciousness is a natural process, like a flower opening to the sun. There is no effort, no struggle, just an ever deeper recognition of who you really are. Paul's words take on an entirely new meaning. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. Galatians 2:20. The day unfolds in its fullness, and you observe how all the apparent paradoxes of the mystical teachings resolve themselves in the light of expanded consciousness. Union with the divine doesn't eliminate your individuality. On the contrary, it allows you to be more fully who you are. As contemporary mystic Sarah Thompson said, "For me, to be a saint means to be myself." A butterfly dances in the air before you, and you see in it the entire process of transformation that you yourself have undergone. The cocoon of the ego has dissolved, allowing true nature to emerge in all its beauty. As American mystic Mary Andrews said, "The Lord looks not so much at the greatness of our works as at the love with which they are done." The sun reaches its zenith, and you feel deep gratitude for the entire journey. Each challenge, each moment of doubt, each glimpse of truth contributed to this moment of full realization. As contemporary mystic Emily Bradford said, "All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well." A child plays nearby, their laughter echoing like crystal bells. You see in them the same innocence that Jesus spoke of when he said, "Unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Matthew 18:3. This is the innocence of pure consciousness, prior to all conditioning. The afternoon advances, and you reflect on how Jesus' mystical teachings are a map for the awakening of human consciousness. They're not dogmas to be believed, but truths to be lived and realized. As contemporary American mystic John Parker said, "True spirituality isn't about believing things about God, but about experiencing divine reality directly." A bird lands nearby, and you observe how it simply is, without pretense or effort. This is the naturalness of Christ consciousness. It's not something to be achieved, but our true nature to be recognized. As Thomas Merton said, "The soul finds God in simplicity." The sun begins its descent on the horizon, painting the sky, now with impossible colors. You understand that the realization of Christ consciousness is not an end, but an eternal beginning. Each moment brings a new opportunity to express this consciousness in the world. As American mystic David Thompson said, "We are spiritual beings having a human experience." The first stars begin to appear in the twilight sky, and you feel a peace that transcends all understanding. Jesus' mystical teachings are no longer just words or concepts, they are your lived reality. As contemporary mystic Anna Stevens said, "In the evening of our lives we will be judged by love. Night deepens, but an inner light continues to shine with increasing intensity. You understand that this light is your true nature, the Christ consciousness that Jesus came to awaken in all of us." As American mystic Rachel Andrews said, "Christ consciousness is not something we need to achieve, but something we need to remember." The moon rises on the horizon, bathing everything in its silvery light. You know that this journey of awakening will continue unfolding eternally, each moment bringing new depths of understanding and love. As contemporary mystic Michael Foster said, "What you are seeking is seeking you." As you sit in final contemplation, you understand that the mystical path Jesus taught is not about becoming something different, but about recognizing what has always been true. The kingdom of heaven is not a place to reach, but a present reality to be lived. The divine light is not something to attain, but the very essence of who we are. The night breeze carries the sweet scent of jasmine, and in this moment, all teachings merge into one truth. Love is the essence of existence. Consciousness is the nature of reality, and awakening is the recognition of what has always been. As American mystic William Parker said, "The end of all spiritual paths is the beginning of being fully human." Stars sparkle overhead like diamonds on velvet, each one a reminder of the light that shines within all beings. You understand now that Jesus' mystical teachings were never about creating something new, but about revealing what is eternally present. As contemporary mystic Sarah Thompson said, "The greatest mystery is not that we have been flung at random between the profusion of matter and of the stars, but that within this prison we can draw from ourselves images powerful enough to deny our nothingness." The dawn begins to paint the eastern sky with the first hints of light, and you feel complete, whole, at peace. The journey has brought you full circle, back to the simple truth that Jesus taught. The kingdom of heaven is within. As Thomas Merton said in his final reflection, there is no way of telling people that they are all walking around shining like the sun. And so the journey continues, eternal and ever new in the endless dance of awakening consciousness. For as Jesus said, "I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly." John 10:10. This abundance is not of material things, but of consciousness itself, ever expanding, ever deepening, ever new,